Okay, here's the update for the month of January. 9,556,000 gallons produced by the wells. In January, works out to be 308,000 gallons per day produced by the wells, or equivalent customer consumption of 591 gallons per day per service connection. Year-to-year comparison, slightly under from last year. It was almost 10 million gallons. It was 2 years ago, it was over 10 million gallons. But where we see the big jump was 3 years ago, 6 million gallons. 4 years ago, 5 million gallons. 5 years ago, 5 million gallons. So just the last 3 years, we've still seen that jump there. And again, as a reminder, we still don't have the old line in Ferry State Park isolated yet. That's a springtime project. Before I get into water system items, because this does affect our unaccounted-for water loss to a degree. Any questions about that so far before I move down to water system items? Okay. One of the things we did find, number one, leaking valve discovered outside the well A pump house. The pump house and water main had been shut down until repairs are made. This was something we were going to look into last fall. We ran out of time, or Riviera ran out of time, so we were able to dig it up.
Brought it up.
Yeah, and found that it is leaking. Until it could be addressed, we basically shut well A down because, water loss is water loss. So
how bad is it?
I don't think it's real significant because I'm not seeing like, whoa, look at even though since January, I'm not seeing because I got that well off a huge difference. Well, I know it's not a big one, but anyway,
the other well.
Seven
feed that system too? I mean,
no, we isolated because with the new valves in with the new system.
So it is actually isolated off.
It's isolated off. So yeah, it doesn't feed it off that way. So I think my question is, I think this is something, Jesse, I don't think that Ben is going to be on here, but I think that's a part of what LaGrevier is going to be working on later, right?
Yes, it'll be part of the SRF.
Right. So that'll be worked on. But right now we're just running off of well 7. The concern was because it's near a Romac fitting, we don't want it to blow off. So we just had, because it does go up to almost 80 pounds when those wells come on. I just simply didn't want to have that happen. So that's why we've isolated. Now well 7 is running fine. You've got the generator on there. So I think we're fine.
Yeah, we won't have either one of our engineers at the meeting today. Kyle's available if we have questions. He said that he'll hop on, but otherwise. But I did reach out to them on that. And Kyle said, in chatting with Zach, we have sent LaRiviere a request for pricing to replace this valve. We are currently waiting on pricing, and it is my understanding that the contractor intends to do this work when they remobilize on site in the coming week. Below are the next steps that we are envisioning. LaRiviere to provide pricing to complete this work, BWSD and Keller to review and agree, provide additional comments/directions, issue a work change directive to complete this work, and once completed, update the contract via a change order. Is this in line with the district expectations? For the board meeting, I believe the above should outline the process status. If it doesn't, I'm happy to dig in more and push this a different direction.
I think one of the things that we to keep in mind here, other than we've had some very cold temperatures, is that we haven't had a whole lot of snow this year. So normally we have wells shut down for 3 months. We've been running it all the way up until just now when we discovered that leak. So it's not like, gee, we're getting a lot of extra wear that we normally would on well 7 over previous years. That's not the case. But so we haven't been able to operate well even until we discovered that.
Were you getting that 80 PSI? Is that just when the pump comes on?
Yeah. Yes, that's just when the pump comes on. It's about 65 otherwise.
Got pressure tanks on it?
No. It goes to the tower, so it's the whatever comes out the tower, however full it is where the...
It should be up to 100 PSI anyway.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of hard on everything. It's
right.
Hammered when it comes on.
Right.
It has that one little shock absorber in the system, right. Torpedo, right?
Right, yeah, that's right. Each one has a torpedo. Okay, then moving down, project repairs. Oh, yes. Number 2, projects and repairs scheduled for the spring are commencing now pending weather and Lakes Highway District build limits. So we just repaired a meter at Cedar Bay Motel. One was a remote read that we use for commercial meters. We can read meters all year. The remote had failed. The meter itself had some condensation inside. It was so old we couldn't read it. So we just had the last Thursday, earlier in the week, we had Jade out there, Dan Lincoln and his crew, and they replaced it with a new cellular read meter. So we've got that up and going. One of the things, and Jesse, we may have to put this off for another meeting because it's not on the agenda, but with the study to read meter, you and I discussed this. This gives, should the board give permission, it grants them the access either to WaterScope US to check their account, figure out what's going on, or they can download a free app to their phone, which can alert them to text messaging. And I know that they really want that. Jesse, we need to put that off for another meeting because I think it's a decision that, because it's not on the agenda, we can't make that decision right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you put it on the agenda? Because we have, well, I mentioned, I think we have 25 of them in there. We have quite a few of them in there, and that gives the customer the access to be able to check it, and us year round. They can only check their own account, of course. And if they get the app on their phone, I'm not sure if an immediate text message, if it sends as an alert, is free to them, or it may cost them $1 a month, but that's up to them what they want to do. But normally it records like data every 1 to 5 minutes, depending on how the meter has been set up, and then it reports it to WaterScope.us, which is Metron Fournier's website hosted by Microsoft Azure. And then that data you can go in and access it and see what's going on. But it can sense, depending how much you want to sense it, it'll sense when toilets are flushed, when dishwashers come on. I mean, it's pretty detailed, but it can also sense if there's a leak and send them a text message if they're in Arizona or whatever that you've got a leak.
So who pays for the cell bill?
It's all free. It's all included in the cost of the meter for 10 years.
After that,
I'm gonna guess the
there's always a cell bill.
I think they'll probably charge us like $1 or $2 a year per meter or something like that. It's pretty darn cheap because it's not over their LTE network. It's over their mobile to mobile network. It's a slightly different frequency, so they don't charge like they do for the rest of this kind of stuff. So
Using the pager system.
yeah.
Never uses pager.
Well, see, and again, it's low usage because it uploads it after midnight, unless there's a leak or something like that. So yeah, and that's when there's low usage. So that's why they worked out a good deal.
So wait a couple of years, they'll probably have even more stuff taped out
Oh, yeah.
those meters and
Yeah.
abilities.
That's right. Okay, and the sewer system production, you're welcome to chime in anytime you want, Bob. I've got the typical numbers here for the summer at 50,000 gallons per day in the summer months and 17,000 gallons per day during the winter months. And you can see how much those 7,752,000 gallons are pumped in the drain fields in 2023. We did have 2 septic tanks pumped in the past month, including our office. The other items on the main agenda, the installation of inlet risers on the septic tanks. That's on the main agenda. We'll be discussing that. Now, we'll get to the one you've got a piece of paper on here from RC Worst that just came in this morning. I'm going to explain a couple things. One is we've had our sewer triplex pump number 1. It has what is called seal water that goes in and lubricates the shaft. But RC Worst is constantly in there trying to tighten it down because it starts spraying everywhere. We found that, basically, for lack of a better term, this particular pump was rebuilt once back in 2008. So it's gotten, almost 16 years out of it. Originally put in 92. Let's say the shaft going down into the holding tank, let's just say it's this size. But where the seal is to keep the water from going out, maybe like this size, it's smaller. And I had Scott Jessica with RC Worst call the company that rebuilt it, and he called a couple rebuild companies, and they said they didn't rebuild the entire thing last time. Some of the bowl was left the same. They said it's not worth it. We've done it once. You need to go with a new pump, which includes a new shaft, not a new motor. If you look at this quote in here, we did quote a motor in here, but I wanted you to see how much a motor costs. But we determined the motor's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a 75 horse. We haven't had any issues with it. The other thing to add to this is not only is it leaking, and I ought to say to RC Worst credit, maybe it's their warranty or whatnot. Every time it leaks, they come out when they're in the area and just take care of it. They haven't been billing us for it, but they're getting tired of doing it. They even tried another method, Bob, where they actually put a kind of a bypass on there to relieve the pressure, so it means much pressure up against the seal, and that didn't work. So they said we've done everything we can to try to keep this moving short of replacing this pump in the shaft.
And this is the one pumping up the mountain.
Yes, it's
So
one of 3.
Super high head.
Yeah, one that's got anyway 475 to 525 psi, depending on if it's going to the drain fields or up to the treatment site.
Is that a packing lab down there?
Yes.
No. The packing has been replaced, I think.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
You have to be really careful with those because when you tighten them down too tight, you score your shaft.
Right.
Yeah. Can't use it. So.
Yeah. Well, they've been in there doing that, and that's so anyway. They took care of that. The other thing I'll mention to you is I've noticed even since I've been here, that pump generally runs longer than the other two, which tells me that we've got to be if the pump wasn't entirely rebuilt, we've got issues there that it's just not worth going after. So, as you go to the quote here, I'll break down the numbers for you. You've got the first half that ends at $1,500. That's the pump. The remaining part of it, U.S. Motors, 12.4. That's the motor and whatnot. So I figured 26.4. Although I guess I probably didn't put in the service truck. 26.4. So it's probably more like $28,000 to get this replaced, not 46. And I should also, a couple of other things I mentioned about Scott got one quote in, Bob.
Uh-huh.
He's waiting for another one. It hasn't come in time. But we figured if we get this one approved, if the other one comes in less, we can obviously take that. So he's trying to get at least two quotes.
I don't think I've seen that yet.
The quote?
And there are.
I just read it, so I forget the number.
I gave you a printout.
Well, hold on, back up now. You've got 46,289 on here, but you just said 24.
Well, it said actually about 28. You eliminate U.S. Motors. You see that where it says 12,400.
Right, the TMP.
You eliminate the freight tax intaxable. And this mechanical, that's maybe the mechanical might still be in there at 1240. Yeah, so it's still going to be more because because the labor isn't above. So you're basically eliminate U.S. Motors out of this quote. You eliminate 12.4 and 720. So let's just say you're going to knock out 13,000 out of that, which is going to put it more at about 33. Now it could be less than that because I wonder if they were thinking the field labor could have been included in on the motor part.
Now, what's the condition whether we have to buy a new motor?
Well, it's running fine. He just said, well, oftentimes when you get a new pump, you get a new motor at the same time, especially since 1992. But those motors can go on and on forever. You probably familiar with those motors, Bob. Those motors.
Except for the old ones, like we have
Yeah.
at the
Wells.
At the Wells.
Yeah, it's the same.
Huge. I mean,
Yeah. They're all U.S. motors.
Yeah, copper one instead of aluminum.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not as efficient. They take more energy, but they last forever.
So all the motors down there look to be in pretty good shape as far as I can tell. I've not had any issues with them. So it's just simply the pump and the shaft. But obviously they have to pull the motor to get it all out. So
It seems to me we talked about having a backup pump for that's three.
Well, kind of we've talked
We
about
talked about it during our budgeting season.
Well, yeah, there was two things. One we talked about, but second of all, we have three pumps in there, and generally it's very rare that more than one would operate. So it sounded like you've got a backup in there already. But needless to say, I'd like to deal with this now before it gets 4th of July weekend.
Oh no, July's too late to go
Right.
in, but it would give us a backup pump.
Mm-hmm.
Not the greatest one.
Mm-hmm.
Get you through until the new one comes in, type of thing. Future.
Well, yeah, and I think
Future failure.
they're actually down there. I see there's a backup pump already, but I can tell that the shaft is all scored. I'm not sure what kind of shape it's in. It's been sitting there by the generator as long as I've been here. But
Wait, is it mounted in the system?
No, it's not. It's just laying there. It's something that they took out. Maybe they're thinking the same thing you are. Well, have it just
Throw it away. It's not broken. It's just,
Well, and you really,
it's not efficient.
right.
what would be the status of that motor just sitting there too?
No, it's not the motor. It's just the pump. There's two components. There's a pump, and a shaft, and then a motor. So the part that's just sitting there is the old pump and shaft, and I can tell it's been used. It's scored.
Yeah. And you can only tell the status of it by what division it's in.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, because it was pulled off and we don't have any record of the status of it, odds, time, whatever.
Right. Well, and I said the other thing that the rebuilders told Scott at RC Worst is, listen, 1992 went in, it was rebuilt in 2008. You've gotten some pretty good life out of that now. We're now hitting 16 years. It's time to get a new one.
Yeah, the first one was rebuilt after 17 years.
Okay.
So it's been 16 since then.
Okay.
Not bad for a rebuild, really.
Yeah.
Thankful we don't have to buy a new one every time. It's nice we can rebuild it.
Yeah. So it is the heart and soul of the system too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's how the sewer
Yeah.
gets from lake level to the
Yeah.
treatment plant. It doesn't get there any other way.
So you're saying that this estimate of 45,000 is not really what we're going to go with.
Well, you need at least subtract out the motor, which is
Yeah,
12.4,
yeah,
and the in freight at 720. So that's going to put you at 13,000. It's more like 33 at this point. There's a potential that it could be less if another quote comes in that's less. But he which you wait for, so we can't wait anymore. Just get what you got. And so I sent it to Jesse today, and that's what she's printed out here. You got it to us.
Picking up what Paul was kind of putting down there, and when it comes down to a point where if we have an issue, that's the wrong time to be saying we got to scramble to fix this.
Right.
Being such a principled item of the system.
What kind of time frame do we have on it?
Gee, I asked him to put on here what the lead time is, but maybe he.
It may have been on the second page.
Okay, let me take a
I'll
look
try
at
to get
here,
a bulk
see
of
what
it.
tells you.
I can put
Scroll down and see if I can find
We
it.
really should get that done before the
Part of it.
July.
Yeah, that's what I get to. It's,
Yeah,
Let's see if I can see.
it's no rush if we can get it done next month, but if it's
Yeah.
3 months out, we gotta get rolling.
Okay.
or if we happen to lose one of the other two pumps, then
Okay.
you can't run.
Well, then we can.
Okay, he says in the email, the lead time is not known at present, but I will let you know when the manufacturer's quotes come in for what we're looking at. So you're waiting for that second quote also to figure out and then they'll get it to us all at once.
But certainly it's a high pressure pump.
Yeah.
They
Well,
don't sit in warehouses.
I talked to their service guys there and they said, 475 to 500 PSI, all you have to do is get a stream like that. That's what they use to cut metal. It says it'll take your leg off.
Yep, yeah,
So that's one of the reasons why we replaced that main valve outside the triplex a couple years ago. It's working, and I checked it recently. It works fine. And our other valves are working fine. So I said, relax, guys. Okay.
well, when we get a little further downstream, we get to working on sewer upgrades. That's something we really need to look at, possibility of maybe putting a breakover halfway up the hill.
Yeah.
That's, that can create some major erosion issues. If we have a pipe break going up the hill, huge, and it's
A fair amount of volume.
kind of like the Cape Horn situation a few years back.
I think when we actually had a drain, we had KG&T here with their big tanker trucks. Well, I think it was 14,000 gallons that drained back down after we shut the valves down up at the treatment site in the drain field. 14,000 gallons, yeah. So typically these trucks hold about 3,000 gallons. So they're going from one to the other and offloading.
It's a lot of pipe going up.
Yeah.
Just let it go in the lake now.
Well, if we got a
Good
quote,
option.
well, if we got a quote from RC Works on fixing those valves up there at the irrigation site,
We haven't yet, but also there'll be something we'll be discussing. It's not just the valves; it's the wiring and the nice. So yeah, there's several things.
well, the reason I'm bringing it up now is because I don't want to wait until we can get in there to do it. I want to have everything lined up to get it done before the first day that we can actually do something.
Yeah.
Proactive?
That's what Bob and I were talking about yesterday. We're like, with no snow on the ground and like letter yesterday, and now I'm like,
Yeah.
That's good.
But I'm like, if we can do wiring, let's get it.
And I have an alternate plan. If we can't get it done, we're going to figure out a way to open and close valves up there by hook or by crook without the power to them.
Yeah, we gotta use a land fix. We gotta use that land system.
Yeah.
We can't just keep dumping it in the ground.
Yeah, but a couple of us can come down early on if our RC Works haven't already done it,
Mhm.
and we can buzz out those wires pretty quick
Mhm.
from the valve to the pump house.
Right. Right, but one of the things is to turn on and off automatically. You're going to have somebody up there each time.
That's okay. I mean, if you don't have to, it's easier than crawling down in there and physically opening it. If the wire's good, we can put a separate switch on each one of them to turn it on when you want to run that zone.
See if maybe
We can't not run this summer.
maybe the new HMI system up there is enough where we can just put some radios in there or something to get it down there. So we can right now, like that screen up there, I can control it from my phone. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to do that from my phone up there?
You can't tell. I'm kind of in a panic mode on this.
Yeah.
Well,
I can tell.
the harness that we're talking about up in the sewer site, I mean, those are 5-wire harnesses? 6-wire harnesses?
I think you're only 4, aren't they, Bob?
It sounds. I think so. Yeah. You have to remember that we had some others that have been in there have rewired everything not the way they were supposed to.
Obviously.
And